Another Monday Nitro review. This is the third Monday Night Nitro, but this is also the Nitro directly after Fall Brawl. So we're going to get some recap from what happened last night. So let's get straight into it. Kick it off Nitro with Bischoff, Heenan, and Mongo, and the puppy, who this episode is wearing a sombrero. I had to rewind this part 100 times to see exactly what Mongo said about my grandmother in the bathroom, and I'm still not totally sure what he was talking about.
Get grandma out of the bathroom, because if you ain't here, you're getting a bum steer.
Bischoff sends us in the back, so we hear kind of wailings of an ambulance or a siren or something, and out comes Kevin Sullivan and the Giant. Just when you thought we were done with the Dungeon of Doom, and just when you thought we were done with Kevin Sullivan, here he is opening the show. The Giant gives a promo. There's a lot to take away from this promo. The first thing to take away is that Sullivan and the Giant are claiming that Hulk Hogan is not immortal and that the Giant is the one true immortal. It's also important to note that the Giant whispers the entire time. It's like a screaming whisper, but it's a whisper nonetheless.
Hogan, for 3 times now.
Mean Gene says if only the Giant's father knew what he was doing. So again, they're leaning into this like Andre. They're leaning into that heavily. One, with the idea that the Giant is immortal because it's Andre passed into him, but also that he's his biological son and that his dad would be incredibly disappointed if he knew he was hanging out with Sullivan, which I cannot blame him. And just like that, we have our first match. So the first match is the American Males, which is Scotty Riggs and Marcus Bagwell, soon to be known as Buff Bagwell. Riggs, by the way, you will know him. He is in the Flock later with Raven. So this is him pre-Flock. We have post-Flock and pre-Flock. This is pre-Flock with the American Males. They are set to fight the Blue Bloods, and the American Males are over as hell. I mean, these guys, the crowd is exploding. The crowd is popping. They are awesome. I say they're supposed to fight the Blue Bloods, but as the Blue Bloods are about to enter, one of them gets attacked by Harlem Heat. So Harlem Heat comes out. This is fresh off of Harlem Heat winning the tag titles last night at Fall Brawl. So Harlem Heat comes to the ring to get in the American Male's face. I don't think I've ever seen this before. So Booker and Stevie Ray head to the ring, and they say that the Blue Bloods should have never been in this match and that Harlem Heat should be in the match because Harlem Heat are the tag champs. He then says that's not good enough and that they also want to put the tag titles on the line. So the American Males go from just kind of a run-of-the-mill opener tag match to now all of a sudden they have a tag team title shot. Very generous of Harlem Heat. Harlem Heat is awesome. Like, they're really, really good in the ring. It's this perfect mix of like strength with athleticism, with speed, with precision. I mean, and then like Booker T's doing axe kicks and scissor kicks all over the place. They're bigger, stronger, faster than everybody else. They're fantastic. Like, the package is just amazing. There's a sign directly in the hard cam that says, "We want it raw." Controversial, yet brave on Nitro. Finally, the Colonel heads to the ring, exactly what I wanted to see. Sherry's on the apron. She looks like she's about to hit Marcus with a shoe, but as the Colonel gets behind her and holds his arms out, she falls into his waiting arms. Meanwhile, Buff Bagwell, aka Marcus Bagwell, reverses it into a crossbody. Meanwhile, ×2, there's just a random guy walking around the ringside. I'm not sure if he's security or if he just got lost or what's going on there, but very distracting. Meanwhile, ×3, Bagwell gets the cover on Booker T. 1, 2, 3. We have new tag champs. What just happened? Crowd goes absolutely bananas. I mean, this is a nuts start to Nitro. This is a hot start. Like, this is, for me, the first time I've seen the American Males. This is amazing. Like, we get the Colonel, we get Sherry, we get Harlem Heat, we get the tag champs, we get new tag champs, we get the American Males. Like, this is a rocket taking off to start the show. Mean Gene is now in the center of the ring. Up next here, we're going to hear from Ric Flair. So Ric Flair obviously can't be happy after last night where Arn Anderson got the win because of involvement via Flying Brian Pillman. Flair is actually going to face Pillman tonight. So Flair comes out, robe, ring gear, the whole 9 yards. And he's got some stuff to say. Mean Gene asks Flair about Pillman's involvement. Flair obviously isn't happy, says that Anderson broke the code by bringing up family, but then also bringing an outsider into this whole situation. Good promo from Flair. It seems to be kind of the recipe that Nitro's doing right now, where they have a promo in the middle of the show to hype up a match for later in the show. It's like their way of saying, hey, don't change the channel. We've seen that, I think, on every episode of Nitro so far. And Flair's done it twice, I know. So this is just Flair's coming out, letting everybody know, hey, if you want to see me later, stick around. Paul Orndorff comes out next to an unbelievable theme song. Like, this is a theme song that you have to hear, you have to be a part of. It might be my new ringtone.
I'm What is going on?
Orndorff is perfect. Like, he is so cheesy in this new Mr. Wonderful kind of thing he has going here, but I love him. I love the guy. Johnny B. Bad is Paul Orndorff's opponent, and just when I thought we would be done with Johnny B. Bad for a night, I mean, we just watched him wrestle for 45 minutes at Fall Brawl. Nope, right into it. So Johnny B. Bad doesn't miss a beat. Confetti cannons, robe that says when you're hot, you're hot. He's throwing frisbees into the crowd. I mean, this is typical. Please, Mr. Wonderful, please win this match. I had to look it up because Orndorff has one of the oldest faces I've ever seen. He has a face that looks like one of those like caricatures in a museum or whatever. How old do you think Orndorff is right here? I'll give you a hint. He is 46 years old. That is insane. He is younger right here than John Cena is right now. Johnny B. Bad hits Orndorff with a couple of lefts. Orndorff sells the hell out of it in an awesome spot. He walks around the ring, grabs his mirror, and checks to make sure he's still beautiful. Johnny B. Bad goes for a pile driver. Orndorff reverses it and gets the win. This is crazy. Like, the crowd doesn't make a sound. Literally, it's a pin drop. Like, they don't know what just happened. It's like when The Undertaker's streak got broke at WrestleMania. I'm not going to lie, I didn't make a sound. I couldn't believe it. I was rooting for Orndorff because he's so kind of hokey and just so, you know, his character is so funny right here. But Johnny B. Bad just, again, wrestled 45 minutes last night to get the U.S. title #1 contender match. So it's crazy that they have him lose to Orndorff. Like, this is not something I expected to see. I don't think the crowd expected it. I'm not sure why they did it. I mean, if it's just, you know, if it's just to get Orndorff kind of over, like, there seems to be a million other people who could have done this. Why take all of the wind out of Johnny B. Bad's sails just before he wrestles Sting for the U.S. title? So weird. I'm not sure if these two are going to have a program later or what exactly the deal is, but really interesting booking. But I'll give them this. It was an absolute shock. I mean, I was blown away. Now, this next few sentences are going to be hard to believe, but just stick with me now. We see a vignette of Macho Man benching 275 on the beach with the cast of Baywatch. Now, I mean, this is the 90s. If you squirt some purple ketchup all over this scene, it is the 90s personified. So again, you're sitting here looking at Macho Man repping out bench press on the beach with Baywatch. In comes Kevin Sullivan. Kevin Sullivan attacks Macho Man. I don't know if these are fake weights because they kind of sound real when they hit the bench. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but if they are real weights, I don't know how Macho Man didn't die. I mean, Macho Man is showing some unreal strength here. What an actor. Some other lifeguards come in and make the save along with Ric Flair, who just, I guess, is on the beach. Ric Flair is wearing his wrestling boots and knee pads on the beach. Mean Gene back in the ring. Out comes Macho Man, and nothing on earth could have prepared me for what Macho Man is wearing to the ring. He's in a full suit and cowboy hat. The suit and cowboy hat all have the red kissy lips all over them. Where do you buy this? Where do you get it? When can you wear it? Who the hell knows? But Macho Man is. Mean Gene asks Savage about Flair helping him out. Savage says, and I quote, "See ya, wouldn't want to be ya." He tells Mean Gene that it's going to be up to him to take out Kevin Sullivan. Macho is still mad about the cheap shot from Luger that was in Fall Brawl where Luger accidentally hit him. He says that he believes that Luger will join the Dungeon of Doom, which is quite the allegation, not gonna lie. Luger's hurt enough, doesn't like this, and he heads to the ring. So he's coming down there to confront Macho Man. Luger absolutely puts Macho in a blender here and asks Macho if he has a personal agenda against Hogan.
Do you also want to be the WCW World Heavyweight Champion? Doesn't that also qualify you for having a personal agenda? I got the guts to tell you right now and look you in the eye that you got a very good point right there. I do have aspirations about being the world champion. Listen to me.
Macho tells Luger that if he's got a problem with him, they can fight right now. They kind of get into it, kind of say, you know, let's get after it. And Mean Gene's kind of trying to break it up. They go to a commercial break. When they come back, the ring is totally clear. So super weird not to see the payoff or see what happened, or is there going to be a match? Where did they go? How did the segment end? Crazy commercial placement. We see footage of before War Games where the Giant and Hogan had their monster truck situation where the Giant's monster truck ran over Hogan's motorcycle, which is just a crazy thing to even say. But now we're back. Main event time. Okay, so the main event is going to be Ric Flair flying Brian Pillman. Here we go. Flair wasn't lying earlier. He is absolutely beating the hell out of Brian Pillman. Chops, hard right, top rope spots. He's doing it all. So Flair is pissed. He's cranked up the intensity. I love it. Great spot with Flair being sent to the ropes. So as usual, Flair does his little flip around the ropes and runs on the sideline. Pillman tries to kind of counter that with a clothesline, but Flair counters the counter, ducks the clothesline, hits Pillman. Bischoff mentions to call the WCW hotline during this. Only 1:49 to call. Pillman flips Flair off the top. Flair lands on his side per usual. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know why he does that, Ric Flair was in a helicopter or plane crash. And after the plane crash, I believe he broke his back. Or maybe his hips, or one of the two. But ever since then, he started to land on his side in order to brace his fall a little bit more. So if you ever wonder why Ric Flair always lands on his side during the back body drop, that's why. Flair slaps on the figure 4, middle of the ring. Pillman taps. Flair's the winner. Flair's chest is destroyed. I mean, these two were going at it. Brian Pillman, remember, was an NFL football player. So, I mean, this guy is a big, strong, athletic dude. He was sending those chops at Flair. Flair was sending the chops to him. Flair's entire chest is just like broken blood vessels everywhere. Flair with the mic, a live mic, and Flair tells Anderson, he says, if not tonight, then next week on Monday night, you'll get your ass kicked by Ric Flair. Flair has said kick your ass probably 4 or 5 times in both promos combined, and that's crazy for the 90s. Like, I know we just came away from Cody Rhodes saying the F word and all that stuff on WWE programming, but in the 90s, you didn't hear this. Like, you didn't hear just cursing on cable, and especially like this. So I can guarantee you 2 things. I can guarantee you, 1, that TNT was not happy. I can guarantee you TNT had quite the conversation about this. And number 2, it was intentional from WCW side to seem really edgy. So I would assume Bischoff or whoever probably had a conversation with Flair and was like, hey, look, push the limit a little bit. We understand we'll get fined here. We understand all that, but we want to look super edgy because that's what they were going for, to combat WWF's more cartoonish, kind of like old school style of professional wrestling. So if you're watching TNT right here, you're watching Nitro, and you're hearing, this is kind of like very similar to South Park. Like when South Park first started, it was very edgy and pushed the limits, and people just couldn't believe it was on TV. So even though in today's eyes it's very like tame, back then that was a huge deal. Show ends up at the booth, no dog, which is very sad. I like to see the puppy's costume. As Bischoff is talking, this part's kind of crazy. As Bischoff is talking, Heenan motions like something's happening in the back, and he's like, hey, something's going on. What's going on back there? And Bischoff just kind of shoves him, like just kind of acts like it's no big deal, and the show just ends.
Something's going on in the back.
Something is going on in the back. And next week,
So I guess we won't worry about that. All right, cool. See you next week. So, okay, who the hell knows if Heenan was just messing around or if that's something else? We will see, but pretty good show. I mean, like, now we're starting to see some storylines. Like, we're starting to see stuff pop off. We're starting to see, you know, this whole like Ric Flair, Anderson, Pillman situation. We're starting to see the Kevin Sullivan mixing and matching with Macho and Luger having to deal with Macho, but he's also having to deal with trying to get back to Hogan, and, you know, Hogan and the Giant now, and not to mention like Harlem Heat and the tag team situations and Orndorff. And now we're starting to see, like, we're starting to matriculate some storylines where now next time we see Orndorff, we remember, okay, he's doing this whole thing. Next time we see the American Males, oh yeah, they just won the titles off of Harlem Heat, who won the titles at Fall Brawl. So the show is starting to get real fleshed out, and we've only seen, at this point, 3 Nitros and a pay-per-view. So loving it. Great show. I mean, the Orndorff match was awesome. The tag team match to start was awesome. Flair and Pillman, not only was a fun match, super intense match, but because of Fall Brawl, it meant something. Seeing everything else, like the beach scene and the Flair, you know, calling Anderson out at the end, and great show. This is one of those ones, like, sometimes when you're watching these, it can kind of be a slog, but this one flew by. Fantastic show. Good stuff. We'll see you next week on Monday Nitro.